You have to mentally prepare yourself to say, I'm about to sacrifice so I can do better for myself. And until you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be spinning wheels. You're going to be the hamster on the wheel.
Those people, they're not thinking about acquiring wealth.
Exactly.
No.
You are listening to Money Matters Podcast. Step into a world full of worth and financial intelligence. Dedicated to bringing awareness, empowering the world to financial freedom and personal development.
Welcome to the Money Matters Podcast. I go by the name Clever Pinero. I'm in the studio with Alex. And today we got a special guest in the house. He go by the name D. Scott, but I'm going to let him introduce himself to you guys, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, how you guys doing? My name is D. Scott. Current homeowner. I own 2 homes, work a couple jobs, and, just here to take care of my family and make money. That's why we're here.
And what you got to say, Alex? You got something to say? Welcome D. Scott into the studio, man.
Yo, D. Scott is D. Scott, man. D. Scott is the real pay, man. You know I got to throw that in there. All right. So, it's nice having you back in here, and I know it's going to be some good conversation tonight.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about, we got a very important issue that we're going to be talking about today. It's a lot of people that can't comprehend the idea that there's some people in America that are living rent-free. I'm talking about living rent-free, paying 0 rent, and still, having a decent place to live, parking, garage, backyard, and all that stuff. People actually doing it, but a lot of people don't really, they can't really wrap their mind around it. So we got 2 landlords up here who are actually doing it, and they're going to teach us how this is being done, so we could learn from it and try to copy them and do the same thing. Because, in America, your rent is like your biggest expense. So can you imagine not having to pay rent, how much money you could save and all kind of investment that you could do with that money? It's that crazy. So we're going to learn about that. And, D. Scott is here and Alex, 2 professional investors. They all up in the real estates and they actually living rent free. They don't pay no rent. I don't know how these guys are doing it, but they're going to teach us tonight.
So, one thing you're saying is rent free. Is living expenses is one of your most highest expenses that you end up having to pay. So what I did was about 10 years ago, I decided that I'm not going to keep paying rent. I took upon myself to start saving money. I got a second job and put away about $10,000 before I actually went about looking for a house. Now you're going to say $10,000 isn't a lot of money, but what a lot of people don't know is that in order to get a house, all you need is about 3.5% for a first-time home buyer. So what does that mean? If you have good credit, 3.5% of how much? What you're looking for a house of $500,000, 3.5% is about $15,000, $18,000. That's just quick math off the top of my head. So if you have $15,000 down, about $20,000 to close, you're looking at about $30,000. Now, $30,000 sounds like a lot right now. How many times in your life have you ever seen $30,000 like sitting right in front of you?
Doesn't happen a lot.
But what happens is if you actually dig down, some people say 5-10 years for a house, a down payment on a house to buy a house. But if you really dig down and say, okay, this is what I plan to do. If you have a partner, someone that you're serious with, or even just yourself, and you just say, listen, this is what I got to do. I'm going to work that second job and put away that side money. Because right now you're working one job. Let's say you're working one job right now. Whatever other time you have separate from that, you agree to yourself that you living off just that one job. Now that second job, all that money that you make, you bank it. Now you're going to say, well, maybe I should invest it. Once I see that money come in, I should get a new car or some new clothes and stuff like that. But it's a personal sacrifice for yourself to say, this is what I want to do. I'm trying to buy a house. So you sacrifice, looking flashy and stuff like that for about a year or 2 so you could put together whatever money you're making on that side job, whether it's a part-time job or a full-time job. I decided to get a full-time job, and based on my career that actually worked out where I was able to put together $10,000 in a few months. So if you can do that, that's what, 4 or 5 months of sacrifice. For me personally, that's my experience. But for someone else, it may be a little bit longer. You could take that money, put it down on a house, or start looking for a house. Because one thing you have to do first is everyone has or may not have credit card debt. You know, in America, in New York, everywhere you're going right now, everything is about credit. Everything is about how much you can make and how much you're spending. And most people have credit card debt because, you know, you buying on, all right, I'm going to wait till I get my next paycheck and pay that down. You know, you shouldn't get caught up in credit card debt. And if you're buying a house, you're going to have to pay that down first. That's number one. You're trying to get your credit score as high as possible because even when you're buying a house, the interest rate that you're getting is based on what your credit score is. And you're saying, well, if I can still get the house and still have some credit card debt, you know, it's kind of whatever to me. But based on your interest rate, let's say the difference between a 5% interest rate and a 4.5% interest rate is the difference between you paying off $1,000 off your credit cards now. That 0.5% interest rate over the course of 30 years on a $500,000 loan is like $10,000. So you paying off that $1,000 now just to raise your credit score however many points is going to save you however many $1,000 off your loan over the course of the loan. So that's very important to make sure that your credit cards are down to zero. If you're going for a house, down to zero. If you're living on day to day, it should be within 30% of what your total
limit
is. Yeah, right.
Limit.
So you're talking about the process, like how when you decided you wanted to purchase the first house, the process you went through, the savings and all that stuff. That's what you're talking about right now.
Yeah.
So you mean that's a problem for a lot of people to save the down payments and then all the closing costs and all that stuff that comes with it. That's a struggle for a lot of people. So that is something that you know you want to save up so you could break through that and then get into the whole housing process before you even qualify for a loan or even think about whatever kind of house you're trying to get, whether it's a 1 family, a 2 family, or 3 family. But what we want to know is how are you guys living rent free right now?
Yeah.
How are you guys not paying no rent? Is this illegal or what? Like, you know, a lot of people think it's illegal. So,
and I think the question that I would like to ask is, did you have an idea to get into to buy a house and not pay rent, or you purchased a house and you made some modifications to the house and based on those modifications, it actually raised you from not paying rent to living for free? Was it something that just happened, or you had plans to go in for a specific method or way to not pay rent?
No. What happened was when I went to go and get my house now, after I purchased my house, I was basically living there by myself. The plan was to get the house for myself and my family.
All right, don't mean to cut you off. Was it a 1 family or a 2 family or what was the structure?
It was a 2 family with an unfinished basement.
Okay.
So this is the one that we came to the housewarming?
Yeah.
It was a 2 family? I thought it was 1.
No, it's 2.
Oh, yeah?
And it had a livable basement? Because, not all basements are livable.
Right. It was unfinished. So I finished the basement.
Okay.
I have a very good contractor. Finished the basement. And then I rented it. And at the time, I hadn't rented out the top floor. I lived in my house paying the mortgage because I was comfortable with it.
All right. So you live in a 2-family house with an unfinished basement.
Right.
You live on 1 floor. How many bedrooms in the first floor? How many in the second? And
it's a 3-floor house.
With 3 over 4 bed?
No,
3 bedrooms over 4 bedrooms, or what do you mean?
No, it's a 1 bedroom over 3 bedroom.
Okay.
Over an unfinished basement.
Sure.
So it's 2 floors. 1 floor is just living room, dining room, a den, which is like 2 rooms, and a kitchen and a bathroom. And then the top 2 floors is bedrooms, and then over that is another apartment.
Okay.
So
kind of like a duplex.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like that.
That was the first floor or the second floor?
Now, my house originally was a mother-daughter house.
Okay.
That's why it may seem like it's a
all right.
A 1 family. It could be used either way, as a 1 family or a 2 family. It was sold as a 2 family, so I decided to use it as a 2 family.
So the basement, how many bedrooms was in the basement?
There was no bedrooms
That
down
was
there.
unfinished,
It was unfinished, so I made it up to a laundry room and a studio.
Studio.
Yeah.
What you doing in there?
No, I have someone renting down there.
I'm renting out a studio too.
Oh, a
so.
studio. Like, all right. I got
Oh,
you had your.
Like my own radio. No.
All right, so you said that you were living in your house by yourself, comfortably paying your mortgage and stuff, and you were all comfortable and stuff. So,
Right.
at what point did you kind of make the decision to kind of rent these other floors out so you have a break on your mortgage or not paying no mortgage?
Well, at one point it was just kind of just looking out for somebody. Someone needed a place to stay.
Okay.
And it was just kind of like, okay, well, we have the space, and then after a while, it's just like, oh, well, I still have more kids, more bills, more expenses.
Right.
And so it's just like, well, the basement came in, and after I finished the basement, that rent with the top floor rent actually covered
Your mortgage.
my mortgage.
Wow.
Now, it didn't cover the whole mortgage.
Yeah,
it
it still had to come out.
Yeah, it covered about 85% of it.
Well,
But what you have to understand is, even though it's covered 85% of it, as time goes on, the rent goes up. So like every year,
the rent of your tenants.
the rent of my tenants go up every year.
While your mortgage goes down.
No, the mortgage doesn't go down. It stays about the same. But what happens is they're paying more, but your mortgage is only adjusted by your homeowner's insurance and your taxes.
Yeah,
if the
so
taxes
you had an adjustable mortgage? Or?
No. Oh, no. You have to have a fixed mortgage. That is extremely important. More than anything else, make sure you have a fixed mortgage. Do not get an adjustable mortgage. That's the biggest scam they have in America.
All right. I think that's a whole subject for another recording.
You may want to explain the difference between the fixed and adjustable one, because some of our listeners may not have no idea what it is, So
Okay.
explain it a little bit to them.
Just a quick overview of a fixed mortgage. Over the course of your 15 or 30-year mortgage, a fixed mortgage is basically when you sign, that interest rate that you have doesn't change over the course of the course of the loan. But if you get a not fixed, sometimes it's 5-to-1, or every 3 years it's 3-to-1, 5-to-1. Basically, however many years pass before they can decide whether or not they want to change the interest rate, which they're always going to. It's going to be easier for you to get a loan, because they're going to say, well, they're going to give you a lower interest rate. Let's say the interest rate on your mortgage for a fixed rate is 4. They're going to say, oh, well, we're going to get you 3%. Now, that may just be enough for you to qualify for the loan. Now, let's say that makes your mortgage $2,000. Great. Now you can afford that. Now, in the next 3 years or 5 years, they're going to say that 3% is now 6%.
Yes.
There's no cap on however
and you may not have any control over that, because that's whenever the feds cut down the interest
or whatever, based on the economy or wherever they feel like they're losing profits,
right.
They now charge that interest against you. So now that $2,000 mortgage becomes $2,400.
That's right.
Now every month you have to come with an extra $400. Now you're working a second job, and then another 3 years come by and they move it to 8%, and now you have to come up with $2,700 a month.
Yes.
And what they're saying is that, oh, well, you can get a not fixed and then just refinance later. But what they're not telling you is that if you don't have the equity in the house or another $20,000 to refi, you're going to be stuck paying them. And what's going to happen, you're not going to realize that until you can afford it. And then you start slowly backing into debt, and then you won't be able to come out. And before you know it, they own your house. So it's kind of like a scam. They're going to tell you, oh, yeah, you'll be able to, or you have the potential to make money. But this is the same thing like buying a car, and they tell you, well, you can finance half of it. And at the end, you just you owe another half. So there's a balloon payment at the end. Never buy a car with a balloon payment at the end, because no one's expecting you. If you can only afford to finance half the car over 5 years at a certain rate, how do you expect to pay the other half up front? That's another scam. So don't get caught up in any not fixed rate interest rate mortgages, and don't buy a car with a balloon payment at the end.
So my question to you is, so it wasn't like you just woke up one day and you was like, I don't want to. I'm tired of paying rent. I don't want to pay rent anymore. I want to leave rent free. Or it just happened by accident, or you just find yourself in the situation and you was like, you know what, I might be able to leave rent free, so let me maybe pursue it.
Well, with that, I gotta admit I kind of cheated because I came out of college and I was living in my mother's house, so I was technically paying my mother rent. But
Now, how is that cheating though? You made, it was a smart decision. I mean, if you by yourself and
yeah, but I made the decision not to pay rent because once you get caught in that, sometimes it's hard to come out.
Right.
Because you're paying into somebody else's mortgage. You're renting, you're paying somebody else's mortgage. You're living in a building, you're paying off the building taxes, and then everything is probably profit for them if it's not government subsidized. So either way, you're getting caught paying the same exact living expense that you would if you had your own house, but without any equity. Every time you pay rent, you're potentially losing equity that could go against, your retirement fund, your children's college fund, money towards a new car, vacation. All that money you're basically throwing away or giving to somebody else so that they can inherently do that for them and their family.
So you mean to say all these people paying rent in apartments and all these other buildings, they're building somebody's wealth.
Right.
They actually putting equity into somebody's pocket.
Right. Because they haven't made the conscious decision to, say, listen, it's my turn. It's my time.
So if somebody wants to buy a house now, their goal is to leave rent free. They don't want to pay no rent, or to leave rent free or to leave as dirt cheap as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what kind of house would you encourage them to purchase initially? Would you want them to buy a one family house or a 2 or a 3 or 4? Or like, what would be the strategy? Like, how can you draw this plan for somebody to just follow and try to do the same thing?
Well, first of all, you can't get a single family house because single family houses don't generally produce income. Now, if it's a single family living there and then it has a finished basement, then you could illegally rent out your basement. But the whole premise of it being a single family is that it's just one family there. Right. But if you have a 2-family or a multi-family house, then, anything over 3 families, they're not going to give you on an FHA first-time homeowners loan because 4 and above is considered commercial, and a lot of people don't know that. So you're gonna get 3. Look for a 3-family. If you can't, look for a 2-family. But you have to also take into consideration that when you are looking for this multifamily house, you have the advantage of taking 60% of what the rent is or the market rent and putting it towards your mortgage when you're going to qualify for the loan. So you may not have to make a lot of money. Someone who makes $40,000 a year can qualify for a $300,000 mortgage just based off having a 2-family house. And that doesn't, it sounds like, oh, what's 40? That's basically minimum wage. The minimum wage just went up to $15. So that's $30,000 a year. So anyhow, you have some kind of decent regular job or you're doing it with somebody else, like your partner, your significant other. If you guys can put together $60,000 combined for a annual income, you should be able to qualify for a $500,000 house, which doesn't sound like a lot, but
the minimum wage is $15 now.
Yeah, it just started January 1st.
All right. I think you were telling your story about how you came to be at
rent-free mortgage
to live rent-free and stuff like that. Yeah. So you got to the point where you started helping out a neighbor or friend who needed a place to stay, and then realized that you could rent that place out. So at what point did you become rent-free? At what point did you not have to come out of your pocket to supplement whatever you were getting from those you were helping out?
It was basically over a few years. A few years' time, the rent goes up $25, $30. It wasn't that big of a difference. So that 85% became 90, became 95, became 100.
Right.
So now basically I don't pay rent. I pay utilities, maintenance on the house, and then other bills. Because you have children, then there's a lot of
more expenses. All right. Would you like to talk about your second house? Well, because I thought you said you owned 2.
I have a second house. Right. It's also in Westchester. For that house, when I bought the house, it was basically turnkey. I got lucky. The house had 2 families already living in it. The base
How many families was it?
It's a 2-family house
with a basement,
over a finished basement.
Okay.
And initially, I started out by renting rooms. So the 2-family basically covered the mortgage.
All right. So
and then the rooms.
You said a term that I think most people won't understand. What is a turnkey?
Turnkey basically means that you're receiving a property and it's already set up with whatever income is coming in. So turnkey for me was I bought the house, it's fully rented out, the money's coming in, it's Section 8, so the money's streamlined. Is basically I just filled out some paperwork, had the money turned over where it comes directly into my account instead of the previous owner's account, and the mortgage is paid, all the bills are paid, everything over that, whatever profit is my the mortgage being paid is my equity, the money coming out is money in my pocket.
Oh, wow, that's smart.
Yeah.
So is it better to look for your own tenants or to settle for somebody else's tenants that they've been working with? Because sometimes you don't know who you're not sure who you rent, whoever's living there, you don't know them like that.
Right. Well, you can have that kind of conversation with the previous owner. Like that's for you to understand why. Try to figure out why they're leaving the house. If the house is producing that, that's a cause of concern. If a house is producing money, why are you leaving? What is it? Now, in my case, what had transpired was the previous owner's father passed away, and he had some bratty kids, and they just wanted to cash out. So they basically took the money and split it 50-50 between the two brothers. That's one thing. Sometimes you get lucky. You get an estate where, people are just dividing it up. They don't want to have to deal with any of the problems. Sometimes it's a divorce. You may get a good deal. I almost got in on a nice house in Yonkers because these two families, the husband and wife were basically going through a divorce. And one of the things is settling the house. They want out. They can't live together. They're trying to. So it may seem like it's a sad situation, but it's actually an advantage.
You wanted to you wanted to cash in on somebody's misfortune.
It's not cashing in on someone's misfortune. I had nothing to do with it. I just met the people, but they trying to sell the house and get out of it. So
the first house was a 2-family with a basement, and then the second one was a 2-family with a basement.
Right.
And the rent from the tenants on the first one was paying all the mortgage, and the second one too was paying all the mortgage.
Right.
So basically, you only pay utilities and whatever.
In my house now,
whatever you need to fix and stuff
repair.
Like that.
Yeah.
And you managing both of them.
Right.
Who's doing the garbage in both?
But the house in Yonkers, the tenant actually does they're their own.
Are they getting some kind of discount for doing it, or that's just it was part of the contract, or what?
It wasn't part of the contract. It comes out of the rent. It's $100 a month, and that includes shoveling, salting, all that stuff. So it's a really good deal. I have really good tenants. I got lucky. Trust me. There's lucky, and then there's also risk. Some people don't understand it's risk. When you're trying to live rent free, someone else is paying your rent. Now, what that means is that you are primarily responsible for the mortgage, but now you also take on the responsibility of dealing with other people's life and their life situations. Now, the person who's paying you rent, which is also paying your mortgage, if they lose their job or they're short this month and stuff like that, you're still responsible for your mortgage. You can't tell the mortgage company, hey, my tenant was late.
They don't care. No, you have that problem though, like a tenant being short or not being able to make a payment.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. You're dealing with people who transitioning throughout their life. Different life situations. Maybe they're going out to disability. Maybe they're going back to school. Maybe they're trying to get another job. And in between that, they say, well, I can't make the rent this month.
They let you know before anything.
Yeah, they let me know.
You don't put no penalties on them. None of that stuff.
I don't personally, but I know people that definitely do. You already know someone's down. I personally don't feel right kicking somebody down. When I'm gonna say, "Oh, you can't make the rent," here's another $35 charge late fee or $50 late fee.
No, but you already have it in the contract. So you don't have anything like that in the contract for them. The lease.
Sign leases?
Yes, it's on the lease, but I don't personally feel, like you want to have a good relationship with your tenant. Because at the end of the day, what people don't understand is that you are at their mercy.
And are these tenants? Are they Section 8 tenants or
not? In my house, no, but in Yonkers, yes. So them is just they're responsible for recertifying, and me, I'm responsible for making sure that the inspections pass and stuff like that. So Like something as simple as a doorbell not working or the sidewalk having a crack in it. You got to get on it. So, yeah. So it's a give and take, you know. It's another set of work, but at the same time, it's beneficial for you, for your equity, for, you know, your children, whenever you are looking about expanding your financial portfolio. You're looking for security, because every time you pay that mortgage, even though initially it's going to look like you're paying $300 a month principal and $2,000 a month interest, eventually it will topple over, and it will turn over to actual equity you can borrow against, you can use against, you can, you know, retire off of, leave to your children, because I plan to leave one house for each of my children. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
So what's next for D. Scott?
Me personally, I'm working on saving a set of money aside so that I can purchase another house. I'm planning to move to Upper Westchester.
One family or what?
One family.
One family.
So, you know, get my one family, finish renting out the house that I'm currently in, and then have the other income from the house that's also in Westchester.
So if you get that one family, the rent from both houses, is that gonna help pay the third one, or how is that gonna play out?
Well, as long as those mortgages are covered, I'm more than good. But they're also income producing. So from both houses, I expect to have about a cash flow of $2,500 a month profit. That includes after all the expenses, which include, you know, maintenance and stuff like that, probably $2,500 a month. That's just cash after the mortgages are paid. So that means that I'm also getting equity in the house every month and $2,500 on the side. So now if one person says I can't make my rent, one house can subsidize the other house can subsidize me, I can subsidize my mortgage as well. So I'd be living rent free in my one family.
All right, so you still have mortgages on both houses, or?
Yes.
How does qualifying for a third mortgage would work for you? Because you already have two mortgages.
Right. Well, you get a conventional loan. You have to have excellent credit. They're going to want 20%. So now you move from first-time home buyers to conventional.
Yeah, that should be after your first home.
Right.
So.
Oh, I didn't have to do that for my second home because the second home I bought in my wife's name.
Okay.
So we used her first-time home buyers.
All
because
right.
when I initially bought my house, it was just with my name on it.
All right.
So if you file separate, that's another way to go around that if you're looking for a second house.
So if like for the one family that you're talking about, if they're giving you a hard time about giving you the loan for that house, if you guys do like a joint with you and your wife, would it work out as a better deal?
Well, if you have to, then moving on to buying a second house, it would have to be conventional.
Oh, okay.
But the way I did it when I purchased my first home was by myself. So that's, you know, I mean, you could do it that way if you buy it together and then, you know, your financial circumstances change, you're making more money, you can refinance it into your own name. If you can refinance it from both names to one name, you release that person's first time FHA loan. So if you can once you refinance, your name goes on a separate FHA number, then your other partner, significant other, then they can purchase that house with their FHA loan. You get one over your lifetime. It's like your social security number, you get one FHA loan. So that if you can refinance it out afterwards, then you can also use your partner to purchase a second home with their FHA.
So you will recommend people to go from a 3 or a 2 into another 2, and then you get a 1. So you get that's my personal structure, but anyone can do it any way it works for them. Yeah, it depends.
Some people may get their first home as a 2-family and they're good, or some people may get a 1-family. You know,
because I think it would be easier to get the loan if you're going from a 3 to a 2, or from a 2 to a 1, than from a 1 to a 3.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah. It's always, I think if you have a multi-family home as your first home, you can go for, I think, an FHA or a 3%.
3.5.
3.5%. If you're going in to a place that's going to be your primary residence, as long as it's going to be your primary residence, I think you're going to qualify for that 0.7 or 5%, whatever it is. Yeah, but if you already own that, you can't go from that to a multifamily home by like that's the only time you get the FHA or 3.5 down payment.
Right.
So I know if you purchase a 2-family, like you said, you use your wife information to buy that one as an owner act, right?
Right.
So how were you able to get around it? Because you already had tenants in there.
Well, the basement has its own floor, so you just put that as you pay the utility there. Then it's your house. It's your.
Oh,
it's
so
your
you
space.
made it look like you paying you live in there because
Right.
you're paying the utility over there. So it looks like you live in there.
Right.
Oh, okay. Because I know that you got to be living there for a year
It's
at
6
least
months.
before 6 months.
6 months.
Before you move out. So I wanted to know how you got away with it. If you were doing some illegal stuff over there.
No, you just if someone lived there, they don't come there a lot. That don't mean they don't live there. They're busy.
Yeah.
You don't have to be coming there. All right, I see it. So that's cool that you actually doing this. So you're not the only person. Alex is living rent free.
I'm living rent free. All right. The thing is, I mean, to begin, I think Donovan Scott definitely had a different approach to it. But if you want to go into it and make sure you don't pay no rent, it's all about the numbers. You know what I'm saying? You see a house
But,
that
not to cut you off. One question for Donovan real quick. So when you were in the process of buying the house, were you factoring in the rent? How did you go about it? Like
When I purchased my
because you
first
wanna-
home,
Yeah, I mean the first one and the second one. Because at the end of the day, you trying to leave rent free. So are you checking the rent in the area to make sure at least the rent covers the area, the whole place, or you just it didn't matter. You just try to put enough for the down payment just to bring it down. Because for me, I'm more concerned about how much are you generating from rent every month.
okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because before I purchase the house, I want to know how much how much the rent is and the mortgage. So the rent has to definitely exceed the mortgage or match up to the mortgage.
Well, I got in at a good time. Personally, I got in right after the bubble burst. So my house I bought foreclosed
2008,
2009
or something like that.
Yeah. So after the bubble burst and people were like scrambling and house prices were dropping, my house was foreclosed at $750,000. I bought it for $210,000. So I got lucky. My mortgage was pennies on the dollar. So when it came to times for mortgage, the mortgage wasn't anything for me to worry about. That was less than a 1-bedroom rent in Mount Vernon. So I was basically paying a 1-bedroom living in my own full house. And then the rent just took over and then it's rent free. So for that, I wasn't factoring in rent. It was more so just finding a house for my family to live in. And then the rent came as a bonus. Now the second house, that was all investment. I did look at the rents in the area. They're gentrifying the area around it, building up new buildings. So I expected the equity in the house, the property value in the house to go up. But it's also the market was still recovering. So when I got the house, got it from those bratty kids that just wanted to split the money and get out, the equity in the house went up probably double. The house is probably worth double what I paid for it. So if I paid I think it was $290, it's probably worth $580. So that's $300,000 equity I could always borrow against. Now, just because the equity is there doesn't necessarily mean you could take it, because you have to be able to afford to have that equity come out. So that's basically saying if your mortgage is $1,400, just throwing that number out there, that's not the mortgage, and then you want a $580,000 mortgage as opposed to $290,000 mortgage, you have to be able to afford the $2,800 or $2,500, however much it would be per month. Then they'd actually give you the equity out of it. So I could refi cash out $300,000 and then take $300,000 from that house, take another $300,000 from my house, just pay those mortgages based on what the rent is coming in, and then cash out my one family. I could do that. But I'm trying to pay down those houses so that when the time comes, whatever time I decide to expire, God willing, only God knows the answer, those houses go to my kids paid off. and that whole equity is theirs, and then they can decide what they want to do with it based on selling it. They want to continue the cash flow. They want to move on, because we are basically 1 or 2 generations away from, either financial stability or financial disaster. And for my kids, I want them to be able to do whatever they want and still not have to worry about different things going on in life.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea at all. It's always good to be, thinking about trying to leave some kind of wealth for your kids so they could, it'll be easier for them to build their life. Can you imagine right after college, your dad, is like, hey, Donovan, that's $50,000 right here. You go use that as a down payment for your house. That would be nice, You probably get a condo and probably live there for 5 years. By the time you out, it's finished paying. You finish paying, you rent it out, and that would be just cash flow right there.
Or maybe just toss you the keys to a 2-family paid off house and say, hey,
you just live in one apartment.
There's your capital. Just go and do what you want with it.
Yeah, so that's how you're able to be financially free, not only for yourself, but for your children and the future generations that come after. Because if you haven't noticed, it's not exactly the most financially safe place to be around here. You don't want your child to have to worry about they lose a job, and then because they lose a job, then they're out on the street, or they can't eat, or they can't feed their own kids. So I'm sacrificing now not only for myself, but having these houses as a bit of a cushion, a financial security for them in their future.
Because they could be cashing out every month in the next 30 years, the next 25 years without having to worry about no mortgages and stuff like that. They're probably not going to like that house. They probably, go get whatever they want and just cash flow from it.
Right, because even where the house I grew up in, my mother's still there. My neighbors, they're still there. They were old when I got there. They're still there. It's been, I moved there when I was 6. That was over 28 years ago. There were tenants there before that. So that house is already paid off. They're still living there. They're still paying the rent. And the people who own it are probably, their kids probably now still own it and just collecting the rent and don't worry about the house. So I can understand how, you have a set of tenants, you pass it down, the income keeps coming in. You're not even worried about it. So it's something that you have to choose to decide to sacrifice now.
You will encourage, almost everybody to think about purchasing than just renting and wasting money like that.
Yes, it's not even just for yourself, but it's also for generations to come. So you have to think about the personal sacrifice. Oh, well, now I'm not going to drive that Benz, for like another few years. Not that you won't ever, but it's a personal sacrifice you have to make now in order for you to, feel like you can step up.
So what do you get out of it? Because you're talking about sacrifices now for your kids.
Yeah.
What do you get from this? Or you just want that recognition?
Oh, no. Because eventually, you have bratty behind kids that don't really care too much for your sacrifice. But what I get out of it is my own financial security. My financial security, my kids, my family, my responsibility as a man is to my family, providing for them, sacrificing for them so that they're able to, basically do what they need to or move off. And having a house, having a business, basically the housing market is my business. It is a business. It's a business. That is how I plan to secure my family.
Is it registered as an LLC or not yet?
No.
Why?
No.
What you waiting? Why not?
What you can do is that's another thing. That's another part to it. Having a term. I'm looking for the term. The term is it's a quick grab loan. What's it called? You know what it is?
Which one? Donald Trump's term, quid pro quo?
No. That's something. No, that's not what it is. I forgot the term. Maybe when I'm invited back, I look it up. I get back to you. But there's a way that you can put your LLC in front of your name just in case someone tries to sue you and stuff like that, and protect yourself. But I'm not concerned about that. I don't need an LLC. Whatever money comes in, I just deal with it come tax time personally, and that's it. But also there are tax time ramifications to you having your own home.
So tax seasons are good.
Tax seasons are good too. You have kids and you have a house. Excellent. I mean, I was fortunate enough to get the Obama first time home buyers thing when they try to get people to get back into buying houses.
But now it's not the same though. Like You don't get as much money with Trump right now as when Obama was in.
No, that was only for a time too. I just basically got it off the cusp right at the end, and that was, I think, how much was it? I think it was like $7,000 if you bought your house. So I basically paid $30,000 to close, and then turn around and get $7,000 back, plus you get to write off what you paid for in the mortgage interest. Everything you pay in mortgage interest, you get back to you. So let's say they're charging you $2,000 a month interest. That's 2,000 times 12 is 24,000. That means off whatever you make for the year, if it's 60,000, 80,000, 24,000 of that you shouldn't have paid taxes on. It's like a tax write-off. So imagine how much your paycheck is, and then take 24,000 of that, and they shouldn't have taken taxes from it. That gets put on your tax return. So that money is in your pocket.
But that's changed with Donald Trump's tax reforms, though, right? Or still the same?
No, that's still the same. They're talking about what you can itemize and write off. Those are different things. I'm not exactly an expert in it. I just know my personal tax situation, and so I can't speak on that.
You just know tax season is good.
Tax season's good.
All right.
It's another pay time.
So Alex, how
I started off by saying that if you're planning to live rent free, what you need to do before you even start is always analyze the numbers. Numbers being how much the mortgage is going to be going for, how much rent is going to be going for, and stuff like that. So that will determine if you should go for a 2-family, 3-family, or just a 1-family, depending on what you're looking to do in terms of living rent free. So you see a house that they're selling, they give you the price of it, and if you want to live rent free, how many family, 2, 3 family, how much is each floor going for? So each floor is going for X amount. You put all of that together, and if that equals the mortgage, that the breakdown of your mortgage is going to be per month, then that's it. You've hit that rent free zone. So you would go ahead and go for that loan and the house, and that's it. You're living rent free. But it all starts with just always knowing your numbers, analyzing your numbers, if there's the plan to begin. I understand these guys did not have that intention, or that was not a plan when going in, but actually got that.
Yeah, with that, don't be scared to go and sit down with a mortgage consultant.
Banker.
A lot of people think, I got to have $30,000-$40,000 before I sit down with a mortgage. You can start a plan, walk into your local bank, tell them you're looking to buy a house. They'll sit down with you. They'll advise you. They'll crunch the numbers with you. You don't have to get a mortgage from them. When it comes down to the only thing you have to be concerned about, which I would caution, which is not really that big of a deal, but if they say, let's run your credit, you can personally check your own credit. You can come with your own copy. Don't let them run your credit. If they run your credit, it might be a hard inquiry. You don't want to have to worry about those. Just go in there, tell them you're looking to buy a loan, first-time home buyers, for 3.5% down. And then they'll advise you based on that. They'll ask you all the questions. You can give them your personal information, how much you're making. They'll let you know how much you need to make. You give them your price range. You can go online, Zillow, Google, check out the housing market wherever you want to live, and look at what you think your price range is based on what house you want to buy, and then see how feasible it is for you. You may look in the Bronx or Brooklyn, and a house is like 1.2 million. You say, there's no way I can afford that, but then there's other houses, they may be foreclosed houses, stuff, and not exactly in your area, but close to your area, like in Westchester, Upper Westchester, that may, be more feasible for you. So you find out, again, like he said, what numbers work for you. Sit down with a mortgage consultant. Don't be scared. They don't cost you anything. It'll be like 1 hour of your day that will change your life. Take the time. Sit down with a mortgage consultant, let them tell you what you need, what steps you have to take, and you basically go from there to start your journey to becoming a homeowner.
Would you prefer a regular bank or a private mortgage company? Which one you think will give you a better deal?
Well, eventually they're going to probably sell your mortgage to somebody else. But you could start with any bank. It doesn't matter which bank.
So you don't think it's much easier to get the loan with a private mortgage company, or you better off just going straight to the bank?
Well, either way, they're all banks. You're pretty much trying to figure out who's going to...
When I say a private mortgage company, I mean a bank specifically dealing with just mortgages. And your regular bank that you actually save your money at, and get your direct deposits coming in and stuff like that.
That I'm not exactly too. I've never understood it to be where they make their decision based on what kind of relationship you have with them. Because my bank, HSBC Bank, I didn't get my mortgage through them. I've basically been banking with them since I was 18. I'm not like, okay, HSBC, I've been here for 18 years. You guys know me. Give me a mortgage. You see my money been coming over the years. I'm a good.
Don't give it
that doesn't matter. Those numbers don't matter. You could be somebody. You have $5 in the bank, and it's a credit union, and they're giving a good interest rate. You deal with them because it's gonna basically again come back to your credit, your credentials, and what you've been making. Your 2 years tax return. Have a solid 2 years. Whatever you want to do, have a solid 2 years income there, whether it's a first job, a second job. When I went for my first house, I'd had only 1 year, I guess, basically working at the second job. So it was kind of iffy. The underwriter was questioning it. Like, is this guy just trying to make this income so that he could get this house and then get out of the job? So I had to have all letters from my job stating that, this guy doesn't plan to leave. He's an asset to the job. The underwriting will get under your skin. They will question everything when they see a bank statement. This is just a part of the process. This is when you're going to get your mortgage to finally clear for your mortgage. They'll ask you, why did you make this purchase for $1,400 at Louis Vuitton? Not that it's any of their business, but they want to know what kind of spender you are. They're giving you a mortgage to.
They want to know that you're trustworthy. They could trust you. That they want to, you'll be able to make your payment.
Yeah,
that's all they care about. They don't really care about whatever you spend your money on, but they want to make sure. So you're one of those people that is actually hoping the economy crash again, huh?
Yes and no. I don't want people to suffer, lose their jobs, but if it comes,
are you sure, man? Are you?
Yeah, I'm sure. That's not me.
Because you benefited big time, big time from it.
Yeah, afterward, even in the stock market, but that's another story for another day. I got lucky. I came out of college at the right time, had a good career. Even in the career, that market turned over too. So I was able to get in and get out and get away with a good set of deal and good prospects. Not everybody's so lucky, but some people, they'll be able to make a way. And for me, is dealing with houses.
So you keep saying lucky. Like, what do you mean by lucky? You were prepared when the opportunity came. If the opportunity, is that what you mean by luck? Because
lucky
when
means,
they were asking for 210 and you didn't have 210, or you didn't have the the money.
Lucky means just being ready at a certain time.
Right. So
because it's a matter of being in the right place at the right time.
Right.
So it's more to do with being prepared than just being lucky.
Yes and no, because like when Alibaba first, I just use this as an example. When that first got in the market, if I had $20,000 to put towards it, I would have. Over the course of the past, however long it's been on the market, it's doubled, more than doubled, almost tripled. So now if I put 20,000 in,
no, that's not what I'm talking about. When you went in for your first house, your down payment was 10,000, was it, or how much did you put down?
I put down 7,000. All
right. So now, what if it came to the point of coming out with your down payment and you only had $2,000? Would you have been able to purchase that house?
No, not at the time. I'd have to come up with enough money to get into contract.
So would that have been bad luck or not being prepared?
Well, your circumstances also have to come into play. You have to know where you are before.
No. I'm not talking about the general terms. So now you're going to buy a house. They ask for a specific amount or percentage to be put down.
Right.
If you don't have that, do you get the house?
No. So you asked me if that's unlucky.
So
Well,
is that
it's a matter of
so having
circumstance.
the money?
what he's
All
trying
I'm
to
trying
say
to
is-
drive out. All I'm
wanna
trying to
know.
drive at is you've kept that word lucky. So you've said that so many times.
You know,
And John
you could
was trying to drive at
You could use
that.
the term. You could use the term "luck favors the prepared." Right? You've heard that before.
All he's
So-
trying to say is you were prepared when the opportunity came.
Right.
That is what a lot of people call luck.
Yeah.
Because
You know, if the opportunity
If I
comes and you're
if
not
I buy a
prepared-
lotto ticket today and I win, and they say I was prepared, I was
yes,
lucky.
you had the dollar to spend.
what?
You had that dollar.
What if you
Then
had
you're
not
right.
purchased?
You're
What if you
right.
had not purchased that lotto ticket because you didn't have no dollar?
Right. You're right. So yeah. So I was prepared to buy the lotto ticket, just like
All
I
right,
was
so
prepared
we
to buy the.
have to be prepared.
You have to be
and
prepared.
not just sit down and
So
wait for the luck
basically,
to.
These
befall
guy,
us.
these guy was prepared without knowing he was prepared. So
He
you know,
thought he was lucky.
are you still on ING?
ING. Oh, no. ING changed to Capital One, and from
Yeah,
Capital
I
One
know.
went to E-Trade. But now I personally use Robinhood because they don't charge anything.
Yeah, because
trade.
I still remember the day at CBL when I was checking my account and this guy sneaked behind me.
Yo,
Yeah,
guys,
you know what I'm
are we gonna stay on the
Hold
rent
on,
free
hold on.
living topic? Or
This guy sneaked behind me, looking into my account and stuff. You know,
I don't
I
know
didn't
that.
know, but and I closed it real quick, but he memorized everything.
are you sneaky?
This guy. I can't speak to stuff I've done 10, 15 years ago.
You want to be sneaky sneaks, this guy.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of being prepared, it's more so mentally preparing yourself to say this is the choice I want to make.
Exactly, because some people may have the money to go put down a house or whatever, but mentally they may not be there.
No.
So will not pursue that dream.
You have to be mentally and financially prepared.
Yes.
Physically prepared to work another job or find another way to make another income, because we're lucky enough to be in a city that never sleeps. So find yourself a job off your 9 to 5
So
or another hustle.
with all this information available, how come people are still living in apartments and renting and still want to rent? What do you think is stopping people? Like, what is the problem? Like, are people lazy or are people
No,
just
no.
not smart enough? Are you guys like too smart or what is it? Like, are you guys just lucky? What's going on? Like,
Living expenses are too high.
Yo,
in New York
maybe
for
this
what
guy
people
is
are
just
making.
too lucky.
People are living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah,
and then
but,
basically trying to extrapolate from what little they make to make themselves look like.
but whose fault is that though?
And also to the
Society.
question you just asked, some people have not been exposed to certain moves and ways of doing things. Their point of view on certain issues have been so fixed that they don't want to explore and research into other things. Because if I've been, like myself, I was told not to even look into purchasing a house because you're going to be plowing snow and also taking care of the garbage and stuff like that. These are some of the things that people look at. They're not looking at the investment part aspect of it, the having your backyard, the basement, and
Yeah,
all these other things. Having a place to of comfort of your own to go every time.
It's funny you say that. I remember one day it was springtime. I was outside and I was just cutting my grass.
Right.
And one of these guys I knew from high school walked by and he was like, "Yeah, you see, man, that's why I could never have a house. You can't have me outside cutting no grass." And I'm just like,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
a matter of mentality. Like
Exactly.
if you living like that, you're like, "Oh, nah, that's a landlord's. That's the landlord's job."
Exactly.
You ain't gonna catch me putting no garbage out. I'm like, okay.
Yes. So he's comfortable paying rent as long as he's not going to be cutting no grass, not putting out no garbage.
I think this is the thing though. Like, you using yourself for example, Donovan. Like, you were living in the house before, right? Before you purchased your own house,
Yeah.
right? You were living in a house, not an apartment,
Right.
right? So you've been brought up living in a house. You get what I'm saying? So that's all you know. Like, you know more about living in a house than living in an apartment. The people that are brought up living in an apartment, they are thinking about renting their own place. They're not thinking about buying their own place because that is their mindset. So you have an advantage being in the house, seeing your parents paying mortgages and stuff like that. you have more information than those people. The people that are living in the apartment, they're not thinking about getting a house or getting in the mortgage, none of that stuff.
Yeah,
they're not trying to live for free. All they know is getting a nice apartment, and that's about it. So it's the mindset, You have to come across these kinds of the kind of information that will make you sit down and think about, how can I
do this?
Live in a place where I don't have to pay somebody's mortgage or I don't have to build somebody's worth, and try to build my own thing, try to build equity for myself, try to make money from this housing thing. Like a lot of people don't think like that.
Some people are just worried about their they don't have yearly plans. Some people might actually, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I can try to answer that. Some people don't have a 2-year plan. Some people don't have a 5-year plan. I have a 2-year plan. I have a 5-year plan. Not to extract. Basically, it is to move into this next house, sacrifice now, working extra hours to clear off some debt and stuff like that, and then move into this third house. But for some people, they don't see past just basically making this month or trying to hustle enough money to put food on the table. Some people are struggling to put food on the table. So you telling them, oh, you could live rent free, they're like, okay, but that's a fantasy for me. But how much can you sacrifice? You have a new iPhone, you're paying an extra $60, $70 a month to lease it or rent it on your phone bill. That's $100 you can cut off right there. When I bought my house, I had a flip phone. Everybody else had, the Evo and all these fancy phones. I wasn't paying out those things. I was wearing sneakers until they had holes in it. When they laughing, but all these sacrifices I personally made. People want to live ghetto fabulous, have, $200-$300 sneakers. How about you take $300 that you paid Nike for those one pair of sneakers and buy the Nike stock? Since you're taking all these monies to have all these luxuries, but at the same time, you're keeping yourself in this perpetual debt. So where are you going to find the money through that sacrifice to put down this money for your house? If you're taking all those sneakers, all those fancy jackets,
you want to have a collection.
You want all those sneakers now. You're putting in plastic containers to fill up your apartment. And then say, oh, now I don't have any space. Let me get a storage space. So you buy a storage space to put the stuff that you're not using. Now you're throwing away that money too, because you want to acquire all these things while you're still living in your apartment. You have to mentally prepare yourself to say, I'm about to sacrifice so I can do better for myself. And until you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be spinning wheels. You're going to be the hamster on the wheel.
Those people, they're not thinking about acquiring worth.
Exactly. No. And also, like you said before, people are not looking at the bigger picture. Because I remember that when you bought your first house, and I think a couple of years or a couple of months after that, you went and bought a Beamer, the 3 Series, was it?
No, it was an X5.
That was an S5.
No, that was an X5, yes.
The one and only S5 in the parking lot of CBL.
Yes, and I remember you coming in and talking about how you just bought a new SUV, but then again, the cost of it was kind of incorporated into your mortgage, so you technically weren't paying for making no payments towards the X5 specifically.
Oh no, I bought the X5 before I had my house. But with that, I mean, when you're going to buy your house, you can, if there's equity in the house, consolidate everything. So basically, you can pay off whatever debt you have left, student loan, car loan, whatever. So that's also a benefit to having a house when you're going for the mortgage. If you happen to be lucky enough to find a house with equity in it, you could flip it at closing and basically pay off certain debts. So let's say your car payment is $500 a month, just using that number, and your mortgage is $1,200. You can take that car and put it into the house, and instead of it being $500 a month, it'll add $100 to your mortgage, but the car be paid off. Now you have a car that's paid off, you have equity in the car, and you have equity in your house. So that is another benefit to having a house. When you're closing, you can also consolidate some of your debt. Your student loan, your car loans, whatever loans. If there's equity in the house, you can flip it into the house and then pay basically pennies on the dollar over the time, and then have your car, have your student loans paid off, and be living rent free. With also start building equity for yourself.
And these are all advantages of acquiring or having a house.
Right.
But then people don't know and have this type of information. So they're more concerned about owning an SUV than actually getting a house and incorporating the cost of that SUV into the mortgage, so they wouldn't have to be coming out paying for that car. So,
So, in a situation where people can't afford the down payments and everything that comes with buying a house, what do you think about people tag teaming, like 2, 3, 4 people tag teaming to just purchase one house? And then, you see how certain people be doing that. Like, I've seen some Indians and some Mexicans.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
like their strategy.
Again, it comes down to mentality, because everyone's thinking, we're in New York. There's no Southern hospitality here. Everybody thinks everyone's trying to make $1 off somebody. So if I come and I say, hey, the 3 of us together right now, this very second, we can definitely, either whether we get a line of credit or a personal loan, we can all put together $60,000 and we go buy one more house in the Bronx. You're going to be like, I don't know. I don't have the time. I have to see the numbers. Everybody going to be busy. Because people, they have their own financial struggle. They have their own financial plan. And sometimes they don't want it to, kind of be dependent upon other people. So we struggle with that. So whether it was within your family, you could barely trust your family. How are you going to trust your friend? Now everyone has their own responsibilities to other people. I can't say, yo, John, come on. I know you can come with 30,000. I got 30. Let's go buy this house. You're gonna tell me I don't know, man. Right now it's not.
You have to see how the deal looks like.
We talking.
Yo, let me talk it over with my wife.
Yeah, my wife. She has to know. Then everybody gonna, it happens with families. It happens amongst friends. I've seen people actually get it done. I've seen people that grew up with each other and they, they feel comfortable and they gonna take the risk and they don't see no other way out. But sometimes people have their own plan. You can't mess with their plan, or you coming off a tangent with something and they're not mentally there. Sometimes people are mentally there at the same time they get it done. Me and my cousin right now is like, okay, let's put together the money. Let's buy, another set of houses. But right now, if I buy another set of house and I extend myself like that, I won't be able to purchase that single family house that I want. Right. So now it's not akin to my goals.
Yeah, I'm talking about the initial stage. If you're trying to buy a house, sometimes people don't have the money. Because the reason I'm saying that is I remember when I first went into my mortgage originator's house, his office, and he showed me some documents of people like making like 14,000, 15,000. It's like about 6 of them putting money together to purchase a 2-family. And I was like, wow, like these people they working at Walmart and Kmart and all these places, and they still, trying to do this. They're trying to purchase the house, and there's people that are making way more than all these 6 people combined together. And the thought of purchasing a house never crossed their mind. The thought of trying to leave rent free or trying to create some kind of generate some create some wealth or generate revenue from some house, cash flow. None of that stuff ever pops in your head.
Yeah, it's the same way like someone has a 3-bedroom apartment, and sometimes people rent rooms, and sometimes people rent the apartment as a 3-bedroom. Let's say the 3-bedroom is going to be $1,800 a month, right?
Yeah, about that.
Right, but if you rent them individually, you start $900 a month each. So they're gonna pay $2,700 because the 3 of them can't come together and say, okay, let's pay $1,800 a month somewhere. People don't want to be attached on a lease to other people. They don't want to be attached to other people and other people's financial responsibilities and their situations. Because the same way I'm charging each of you $900 a month, and it's $2,700. If you guys said, okay, let's do it together, and you each pay $6, it would basically satisfy an apartment that's $1,800. But you don't want to worry about if that person's coming up with their rent. If they're short. Right. If they're short, I don't want to have to deal with that. So you just pay your $9, I'll pay my $9, and I'm good.
I was talking with Alice about it. There are also people that actually live rent free when they rent apartments. Like, one person would just go rent a 4-bedroom apartment, and then he would turn around and rent the rooms to other people.
I've seen that done too as well.
He'll be, but that's good. But you're not building equity. You're not building no equity. You're still paying.
It's enough.
You're still building somebody's worth. So you wanna.
But at the same time, that may be a plus for some people that want to do it on a smaller scale, because what you eliminate the responsibility of is maintenance. Because if the water heater goes, if there's any problem with the apartment, you're not responsible. The landlord technically is. So therefore, if you want to start small like that, build your equity like that, that's another hustle.
Yeah, but you're renting, so you're not really unless you're saving some money out of it. Because if you're not saving some money on the side,
but
just for
like
that.
you said, it's rent free. You're not.
Yeah,
right.
So the rent that you would have paid is money that could be put to the side.
If you're doing that, then it's different. But most people are not doing that. Like, you know what I'm saying?
I've seen
the only good side to that, like he said, is like you eliminate the cost of maintenance and all of that stuff.
So yeah, with that, the landlord's still primary. So if you want to start small like that, you can save money like that. You 3 people, you can work out the lease with the landlord. I've seen landlords that are appreciative of that. That's basically how it was for me with the second house. I didn't get into it, but initially I was renting rooms, and I was coming there every week. I have to worry about collecting my money and stuff like that, and people paying and then they short and stuff like that. These
so
people.
How you get paid though? Like, are they? How do you get your money? Like, you go there collect the rent?
When I was renting rooms, yes, I had to go over there and collect the rent. It was cash because
I'm talking about right now, like the two houses. How do you collect rent? Like you go there physically to collect it?
No, the house in Yonkers is Section 8, so that goes right in the account. And the house I live at, they just pay me.
So they don't come out of pocket. None of your tenants.
What
Section 8?
No.
Full payment.
Full payment.
Wow.
Yeah. They actually
Donovan's balling, man. You know what I'm saying? With Section 8, 12 o'clock, 12 midnight, on the first, the money shows up, right?
It's actually the 4th. But, yeah. But these expenses when it comes to having children, I have 3 children of my own. It's when it comes to childcare and stuff like that, you may think, oh, you're balling and stuff like that, but the expenses they really cut you down. So it is what it is.
Yeah, but at least you investing.
Right.
It's not the same as
How about you? You may have 2 children and still be renting a place. You still have to take care of your kids and pay your rent
because you're gonna pay rent. You're gonna pay rent regardless.
Right.
It's gonna happen. You're gonna need a place to stay.
So
you might as well put yourself in a situation where you become you renting where you own or you owning where you rent. You know what I'm saying? Like you want to be in that situation.
Right.
You don't want to be paying somebody's mortgage. You want to pay your own mortgage, build equity for yourself, and like you said, try to leave some kind of legacy for your kids so they could have something to build on, which is very good. And not a lot of people thinking like that. So we trying to, let you guys talk about your little personal experiences so other people listening could, pick up certain things from it and try, wake up and try to want to do things for themselves and also think about the people that are going to come after them, Because not everybody's thinking like that. People are thinking about themselves and that's it.
Yeah,
so
new pair of sneakers, a flashy car, and they're good. They're good in their apartment. And then they have a lot of perpetual struggles that going on throughout their life, and no one's thinking about retirement. What do you have for retirement? I have my 401ks, I have my pensions I'm looking towards. And some people are just like, I don't know what's going to happen to me when I reach 60, 70,
Donovan's going to be the richest guy in the nursing home, man.
All we're trying to do right now is to, provoke people to start asking questions about, living rent free, owning their own homes and stuff like that. Because we've been shown that one side of it. If you're born in an apartment, grew up in an apartment, your grandparents and all of them are living in apartments and stuff like that. That's the part of the world that you only see. You don't see past that. So, if somebody's talking about buying a house or trying to, buy a house where you will live rent free, you'd probably argue with them that no, that's not possible because you've never seen or heard anything about that. Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to encourage people to do right now is to start asking questions. start talking to realtors, go to banks, talk about mortgages. It doesn't matter, like Donovan's.
It doesn't cost anything to ask a question.
These guys said, they're not gonna bite you. There's nothing to be afraid about walking into a bank and looking for a mortgage banker and sitting down with these people. They will let you know if you're ready. You give them your numbers, but then you have to be frank with them. You can't be, cooking up no numbers or telling no lies because, you have a messed up credit and you feel some kind of way about opening up about that to them. You have to give them the right numbers, the right information, so they can give you the right numbers concerning how much you may qualify for or your interest rate and stuff like that. These are very important questions that we can start asking and start talking to people regardless.
You cannot lie to those people because they know everything.
If you're serious, because people are not serious. They think they're serious, but they start talking about these things and start cooking up numbers and giving false information. You're playing yourself.
Yeah.
Because no serious-minded person who is looking into purchasing a house will lie to a mortgage banker about these numbers. Because at the end of the day, before they hand you that loan,
they're checking everything.
They will check everything. They have more information about you than you possibly think.
And even if they have a simple question they're gonna ask, the underwriter will ask anything. Why did you spend $140 at Victoria's Secret?
I was talking to this realtor, and he said that the only question nowadays they don't ask is your blood type.
They can ask
anything about you. They ask.
They can ask anything.
I remember when I was applying for mortgage, and I went to I already had a mortgage company working on it, so I went to Chase, and I went there to check on my mortgage status. So they were checking, and then the guy was like, "Hey, you do qualify for a credit card over here." I'm like, "How much is that?" They're like, "I think it was around like 8,000 or something like that." I'm like, "Let me see." He's like, "Yeah, you do qualify for it. Why don't you just take it right now?" So I'm like, "I really don't need it, but let me just have it." So he just put it in there, and then as soon as I walk outside the bank, I get a call. Boom. Yo, we working on your old thing. How you gonna put another credit? How you gonna get another credit?
Yeah, this is all like information.
They don't
and then I had to get
alerts.
I had to get a letter from the bank stating that I have zero. I didn't spend no money on it. My balance is zero and all that.
Yeah, because
these are things that you learn in the process.
Because a lot of people, what they used to do in the past is they used to scam. Let's say you go to one mortgage, you closing on a house. Now, it's the trick. It's very, very, very hard to do, but some people try to close on the same day. Let's say I have enough money to buy one house. If you can finagle it where you can all close on the same day, all you need is one set of money to basically qualify for all three houses. If you have the down payment on three houses, three contracts, if you close on the same day, they can't argue that you wasn't able to start the mortgage.
Yeah, but why you want to go through all of that? Like,
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
If you want to buy three houses at the same time, but that's another story for another day.
So
that's way above.
Based on what you guys are saying, it's even possible to actually purchase a house, not pay no mortgage, purchase another house, not pay no mortgage, purchase your own personal home. And the mortgage from the two houses are gonna generate enough revenue to pay for the third house. So now you own three houses where you don't pay nothing for them. Other people are paying for it. So while you just sit back and just chill and just watch the money grow.
So I think the problem is most people can probably afford the monthly mortgages and stuff like that, but to qualify through the process is the thing. So as you're saying, like he said, the plan that he used was to use his wife's name on the second mortgage. It would have been totally different if he would have used his name on that second mortgage.
Right.
So these are some of the tricks and stuff that you have to learn through the process. So if you can get ways around these things, then definitely you can go about it.
I mean, you have to learn not to file taxes together. That's what, that way.
Yeah, husband and wives filing taxes.
And also, if you have enough income, your income is high enough to qualify you for the cost of a certain house, then it's always, and if you have plans of purchasing more houses and stuff like that, then it's always a good advice to go in alone so you don't kind of put your
another point to first-time home buyers is that with the 3.5% down, you can have 100% gift from any relative, friend, family member, person off the street. So you don't have to if you have somebody who, you know, trusts you or wants you to have the house, whatever, or that you can work out something with, you don't have to come up with any money. Whatever your income is, you work for 2 years, you have your 2 years income. They can gift you the total amount of the down payment and the closing costs. You don't have to come up with anything. So basically what I did was I just gave my wife the down payment and the closing costs and then bought the house in her name.
Yeah, another thing that you want to also let people know is, I think if you know that you're going to purchase a house, you want to, and you're trying to do any transactions like, you know, putting money in your wife's account, and if you want everything to go smoothly, you want to make sure you do it 3 months before. You know, before that.
Yeah, well, if you're going
that way, you don't have no questions. You don't want to go through no questions. 3 months before that, nobody asks you anything.
Right. So when it comes to having money in your account, anything that happened, they're going to ask for the past 3 statements. So if you're looking for a house, whatever money you put in 90 days before, they consider it yours. They don't ask where you saved it from. You don't have to be saving it up over the course of a year or 2 years. They want to see exactly every dollar that went in. The past 3 months is all that they ask, and your 2 years tax returns, your current pay stubs, your credit report, all those things. If you have a 401k account, they want to see those things. And you could qualify for a loan, and, you know, the next hardest part is finding the right house and getting the contract.
You didn't talk about reserves.
Oh, reserves. Oh, you have to have 3 months reserve mortgage. But if you have a 401k and it has 3 years worth of mortgage in it, 3 months worth of it qualifies as a reserve.
So you don't have to go withdraw the money from the 401k account. You could just.
What if you got money in the stock market? Does it qualify as reserves?
I'm not sure, but they did ask about it. It just counts as
part of it.
I'm not sure if it counts as part of it, or they just want to know what your assets are. I wasn't sure if they qualified it, because what I had in my 401k was more than enough to cover 3 months.
Yeah, reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's good, man. So basically, we wanna encourage people to, you know, think about these things, you know, factor everything that we're talking about, because this is very important. These people, Alex and Donovan, actually living rent free, so it's possible. Anybody can do it. It's not. You don't need no miracle or anything. You just gotta prepare yourself, set your mind that you want to live rent free, and ask questions. Like you said, go to the banks, talk to them.
Now, if you have any personal questions, just like and comment. We'll try to get to everyone's questions as quickly as possible. Hopefully, I'll be put on as administrator. If any questions are directed towards me, I'll see how I can factor in time. So, like, comment, subscribe. And we'll get back to you.
Any questions that comes in the comment section, you'll be able to go right ahead and answer them. If people got questions, or they could send an emails to the Money Matters Podcast at gmail.com, and we'll be able to respond to them. We usually respond to all questions the same day. We don't wait too long on it. So this is very important. We trying to, build wealth out here. We want to encourage people to think about it. Sit down. It's a new year. We're still in January. Sit down, think about it, and try to own your own thing. Stop paying people's rent. Stop paying people's mortgages. Stop building wealth for people. Build wealth for yourself. Think about all these apartments, all these buildings in New York City. When you're walking around, people talking about, hey, this is my block. This is my block. This ain't your block. You paying somebody.
Now you're complaining the Jewish man owning all the properties because they decide to put together their money, and they decide to sacrifice, and they decide to save. They're not sitting out here walking Gucci and designer this and designer that. And anybody can do it. You can do it.
You just got to look at a bigger picture, where you see yourself, have some long-term goals, have plans to stop working someday and have your money work for you so you can survive on the interest or returns.
And your income is only your job for if you're working for 2 years. That is only when that money that you're generating from your job is considered as income, right? If you're working 2 years.
Yeah, or it's qualified as a second job, but 2 years for your main set of income.
Right. So that's good, So the second job really helps.
The second job helps because they're gonna try to qualify you based on, again, they're only going to give you 60% of the market rate because they're considering the other 40% to go towards repairs and other stuff in the apartment or in the house. So if the rent is $1,500, they're going to give you 60% of that. So that's 60 times. They're going to give like $700 and something, $800 towards the mortgage payment. So, you can subtract it based off of that, even though the money's going to come into you. The bank is not going to count that. So you still have to be able to have enough money to cover the whole difference in the mortgage.
All right. Any last words, Alex?
Nah, I think I'm all out.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Donovan, for stopping by. You're always welcome. You can always stop by whenever, because we want to talk to people that are actually doing the things that we talk about. We don't want to just talk and make it look like fantasy or something like that. We want people that are actually doing it. And there are people living rent-free, people who are paying zero rent. That means these guys are stashing up. I want to see how their bank accounts look like, because these guys are saving so much money.
Yeah, D-Scott is the man, so
D-Scott saving all that money. Alex saving all that money.
D-Scott was even getting pay back in the day. So that was just with one house. So with two houses, you can imagine the pay.
All right. Thank you guys very much. This is the Money Matters podcast. Subscribe, and like, comment, share. That's all for today, folks.
That's all for today. Until we meet again next time, never stop learning. Thank you for listening. Subscribe to our channel. Email us at themoneymatterspodcast@gmail.com.